after 2 games to start the NFL season, the Carolina Panthers have benched second-year quarterback Bryce Young. This move is going to have a major impact on the 2025 quarterback class for the NFL draft. We're going to explain this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every days. You know, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man. And the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated. Dun, dun, dun. The Carolina Panthers, you are on the clock at the end of the day. Yes, they sat down Bryce Young only after a year and a couple games, DP. That was quick, man. That was a quick Bryce Young situation. How's they going to have an impact on the 2025 quarterback class? I already know what I'm going to say, right? Then we're going to get into the prospect spotlight, and then we're going to wrap this segment up with my favorite segment, and my name's not on it. Dames, dudes, DP. Let's get to it.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Yeah, Keith, it was a quick decision, right?
DP, did you like my my draft? You like my draft buzzer?
I didn't expect that. We didn't pre-plan that. That was definitely caught me slipping. But no, I loved it. It was great. And Keith, the situation in Carolina, like, you know, Dave Canales coming in, and I tried to warn Panther fans on Twitter. Like, I was like, listen, like, he's not connected to Bryce Young. And we see this is just status quo. You hire a new head coach, you got a new GM who was on the staff before, but it wasn't a guarantee that if Bryce didn't play up to Dave Canales or whoever's standard, that they would ride and roll with him, you know, going forward. But it just happened quicker than expected. And like I said, Bryce does not look like the guy we saw at Alabama from a confidence standpoint. This benching, right? This is a team that's 0-2. They've been blown out in both games, right? You know, against the Saints, and then week 2 on Sunday against the Chargers. They're starting Andy Dalton. The impact of Bryce Young's benching on the 2025 NFL draft class is it just throws another team that's going to be drafting in the top 5 into the quarterback race. Like, for the longest, Keith, we've had optimism. Like, okay, what we said, as long as Bryce isn't bad, but the Panthers are bad, you can bypass quarterback. But the way that Bryce has played, and it's like now for Dave Canales, it's like, this might be my only shot as a head coach, truthfully, because of my connection to Dan Morgan, all that type of stuff. I need to go get my own guy if that turns out to be the case. And I think we know the Giants, the Raiders, even though Gardner Minshew led them to a win over the Ravens. Yeah, Raiders, Giants. Now you got the Panthers for sure that need a quarterback. And yeah, it's going. We're probably going to end up seeing 3 quarterbacks inside the top 10. I think, honestly, without a doubt. I don't think that you can go edge. I don't think you go O-line. I think they reset the clock and Dave Canales goes and gets his quarterback.
Well, DP, I want to ask the question. You said 3 quarterbacks inside the top 10. Which ones, right? Like, which quarterbacks at this point in the draft, and as we talk about the impact on the 2025 class, obviously there's the relationship between supply and demand, right? And now one more team has a demand for a quarterback, right? But what's the supply here? Like, who are the 3 quarterbacks right now that you see taking or going in the top 10 without a doubt? Like, just even because we've had last year's sample size of what they was able to do, and then this year of the quarterbacks that we think may declare, right? We've had 3 weeks, but for me, it's kind of still confused, right? Like, there's still a lot to be told. And do you have a consensus QB1 out of this entire situation?
I don't have a consensus QB1 right now. No. I think it is the QB1 race. I still like Shedeur a lot. To me, him and Carson Beck are two of the more accurate quarterbacks in this class, guys that could just put it on receivers and put it where it needs to be, things of that nature. But I'm telling you now, and Keith, we were kind of there with same thing with Jackson Dart. Was like, man, I need to see like more from you, and I'm still holding out. Like, all right, once we get, I said it on, I think yesterday's pod. Once we get to ACC, competition for Cam Ward, that's going to be the telltale, because like he's starting the season off fast, right? Let's finish the way you start, but talent wise, tools wise, mentality, and I think that was probably the main thing. Like just with Cam Ward, you see a guy that is so confident, that looks like he operates as if he has that dog in him. And for me, it's like that's something that Bryce never truly showed. And even at Carolina, he was very PR, robotic. Like it was never any emotion. And I talked to people there. That was something that was a concern. It was like, okay, like nobody can get a read on you. Cam Ward walks into the huddle or walks out of the huddle. You see a guy that knows I can make every throw. I can do whatever I want on the field. Now, granted, you want him to play with the instruction. Don't be crazy. But physically, I can do things that some quarterbacks really can't do.
Yeah, I guess I look at it. Which one of these guys that you say, okay, cool, I'm going to roll with them, and I feel really confident about placing them in this Carolina situation, and not right. I want to say not Bryce.
Beck. It wouldn't be Beck.
It wouldn't be Beck
for me. It would have to me. It would be Shedeur, Ward, and Milroe. I don't think I want to put Beck or Quinn Ewers in this position. The team has gotten better. The offensive line has not been bad through 2 weeks, stuff like that. But I'm thinking about the fact that Carson Beck he's still mobile, but he's so used to clean pockets. Where I look at Shedeur, we've seen Shedeur for 2 years at Colorado. He rarely has clean pockets, but he's still able to get it done.
He may be the only one that I'm confident in, because he's the only one I've seen operate. Because even with the Cam Ward, right, we've seen at Washington State, I think we had 2 years sample size at Washington State, or was it 1? I can't remember, because I know we knew about him in Cornell Word. I think it was 2, I believe.
I think it's 2.
He played it was 2 years, right? And we've seen the same exact thing and we have to see it this year. But at this point, right, based off of what we have, we've seen Cam Ward play good, really good against lower competition, right? Come here, ball out, and then as the competition evens out, or even that his team is, but like as far as talent wise doesn't match up to the opposing team, he doesn't play as well. And so the Carolina Panthers, I agree that they got better, like the old line got better, but I just watched J.C. Horn get torched by Quentin Johnston right off the line of the scrimmage. So the defense is significantly not as good as it was. They traded away Brian Burns, who was their edge rushers, right? And we've criticized them through the draft and the defensive prospects they've decided to take. I don't know. And I'm looking at this quarterback class.
That defense was going to be bad. I think that was the plan, Loki. It's like we have to invest in the offense. And so like they knew, I think that the Jonathan Brooks pick was via the Brian Burns trade, getting that extra second and stuff like they knew that the defense was going to look. I mean, you don't expect J.C. Horn to look like that. I think for me, when looking at the situation, like I said, the Bryce Young benching, it's absolutely turned this quarterback situation for the 2025 draft on its head, because we didn't expect this. We didn't expect the Panthers to be a team that have to be
2 games
a quarterback
in. Like I thought the Panthers only their only goal was to figure out if Bryce was good enough. Yeah. For the 2024 season, right? That was their only goal. And after 2 weeks, they benched him. The thing is this: if Andy Dalton plays bad, then what?
They secure a top pick for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, they secured a top pick, and I think what the problem is with them is that they couldn't evaluate the young talent that they have, like Xavier Legette, Jatavian Sanders, correctly, because Bryce is just so shell shocked right now. He's not throwing passes to guys that are open. He's not trusting what he's not confident. And last year did a number on him. Like that's the first time that young man ever dealt with something like that. He was at Mater Dei, or he was at one of those big time California programs in high school. You go to Alabama, like you've never been in this situation, and he was sacked the most, I think, by a rookie quarterback ever. Like, it was bad. So it's like they don't like can now say I went and watched the tape. The tape is rough. For 2 weeks, that is some bad offensive tape to watch. And then you do have guys open and he's missing reads. That's why for me, it's like when you have Mingo, who he missed a lot last year, you have XL, who I hope that they get on the field now, you know what I mean, and get him more on the field. Him, Deontay Johnson, Jatavian Sanders. When you have those guys, you imagine putting a quarterback also that they had concerns with him pushing the ball down the field. Like throwing the ball down the field, one-on-one outside throws, that's never been Bryce's A-trait. It's never been his strength. So it's like you kind of limit, you put your defenses have been able to play and put an umbrella and just work downhill towards you because everything is quick game, everything is outbreakers, quick slants, mesh concept. We can't take the top off the defense because he was unable to do so.
Yep. Well, DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing. It should be interesting what happens with this Bryce Young, the Carolina Panthers quarterback, how in the ramifications, right, that it's going to have on a 2025 NFL draft, right? Even if they may decide to pass up on a quarterback, right, and go with another position and then punt until the very next year and trade away the number 1 overall pick. But DP, let's get into the prospect spotlight. We're going to pick some prospects, spotlight them guys that have been playing well, flying under the radar. We're going to have some conversations coming up next.
Football is finally back, which means it's time to order your favorite game day food, snacks, and drinks on DoorDash without missing a single play. My best piece of game day advice for my fellow football fans: have a plan and know what you're going to do on game day. So if you're going to cook, know what ingredients you need and know what you need to have in your home before it becomes time for the game, before kickoff. If you're going to order food, get it ordered before your friends and family get there, because that's how you define game day greatness as a fan. Not to have your friends and family come over hungry with no food and they have to go make store runs in the middle of games. Use the promo code LOCKEDFALL for 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer, terms apply. Promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 or older to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol only available in select markets. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, on this very podcast. From preseason MVP betting odds in the NFL to preseason college football and Heisman odds for college football. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any given time. Why would you want to bypass or pass up on a deal like that? You don't want to. So just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Once again, all you have to do is just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Keith, it's time to shine that spotlight bright on some of these prospects. Keith, a wide receiver that I don't see a lot of people talk about, but he's balling this year over at Maryland. Ty Felton, Ty Felton. Yep. Ty Felton, 6'2", 190. He targeted 39. First of all, he's coming off back-to-back games of 15 targets apiece. Like he's been like they're feeding him the rock right now. 39 targets, 27 receptions. He's caught 400. He's got 442 yards receiving, averaging over 16, almost 16.5 yards per catch, and 4 touchdowns. And it's just I'm watching the tape of this young man. He's a riser for me, Keith. When you have that NFL size, because he's built well proportioned, got some density and muscle mass to his frame. He works as a 3-level receiver. He works I love him in the zone game because he's so good in terms of whether he's in the slot or out wide because they move him around. He knows how to find that soft spot and how to tempo his route and work around spot droppers. If a linebacker's dropping deep, he knows I got to cut underneath that guy and fill the void. If that linebacker is shallow in his drop, he knows I got to work behind him and get to the void. And he just does a good job of that. Strong-handed. I don't believe he has a drop on the season. Let me just double check. No, I don't. No, he does not have a drop at all on the season. And ball tracking, whether slot fades, the goal ball on the outside, this like. And again, in a wide receiver class where we know the top 3 as of right now, if Travis Hunter plays receiver, are set. But everything else is wide open. It's an open contest for guys like this to put their name in the hat and say, listen, I'm an NFL caliber receiver. I looked at him and he reminds me a little bit of Brandon Ayuk. And I'm gonna do the deep dive on him and everything, but for so far, so good. Over 100 yards each game, 3 games this season, over 100 yards, 178 week 1, 147 in week 2, and 117 against Virginia week 3. Mr. Felton is a baller, Keith, so I wanted to shine that spotlight on him.
Yeah, but no, I'm glad you did that. I had wrote about him heading into this past week. Because I checked him after week 2 and he was leading the college football in receiving yards. So I'm like, who is this young man out of Maryland, right? And so I cut on the film and checked him out. And you talk about the stride, right? Like this is a guy you can see him running the 200, right? The 200 or the 400. Yeah. When he opens up that stride, I look at him as a vertical threat type football player, right? Because I think he has easy gas. Like he can just, you move him and condense him. And you know who else reminds me of? Not reminds me exactly, but how Jalen Hyatt won, right? And then he was able to get vertically quick. So you put him in some of those stacked alignments and give him free releases, let him get upfield. But this appears to be an explosive football player at the end of the day, right? Like he's a guy that can take the top off and can be really fun for a lot of offenses and be a good offensive piece. And like you said, there's tier 1, what we believe to be with this wide receiver. And then tier 2 is who knows, right? Like is like with this wide receiver, so he can definitely rise. And if he keeps the consistent production, and that's what I had wrote about. I was just like, hey, okay, a 2-week sample size is like, okay, maybe I hate to say you got lucky, right? But you kind of hit right the first 2 weeks. Let's see if you can do it one more week, right? And then I checked and he followed up again. So I'm glad you was able to bring him up because I do think that he has a opportunity, right, to state a real case to elevate himself at least into the top 100. You're talking about a guy that was totally off everybody's radar, right? Like people still don't even know how to pronounce his name. Brought up here, DP. I have a guy, right? I'm going to talk about running back from Ole Miss, Mr. Henry Parrish. Transferred from Miami, right? Came to Ole Miss. Now, I knew that they had Henry Parrish, and then obviously it was Logan Diggs was another running back. He's the bigger 225, 230-pound running back. But Henry Parrish is flat out getting the job done, right? You're talking about back-to-back weeks. He went for 165 against Middle Tennessee State, and then he went for 130, and he went 165 and 4 touchdowns from Middle Tennessee State. And then Wake Forest, he went for 133 and 2 touchdowns. The guys, listen, he's not very big, right? He's listed at 5'10", 185 pounds. And you see that on film. He looks like more like a slot wide receiver, right? But he just understands how to run the football. And you see the wiggle he has inside of the hole, right? And I think about this Ole Miss offense and how they kind of spread everything out. And so you get him and you just have to consistently put him in one-on-one situations when you're talking about running inside zone one-on-one with a linebacker, right? He makes that linebacker miss via being elusive or just sprinting past them. And then now you're talking about big gains. So just a fun prospect to watch. Now is obviously believe he's a senior this year. And so it's probably going to come out. And then now it's like, okay, where do you place this skill set, right? Like, where do you rank him? And right before you write these guys off, obviously, in the back of your mind, you have to think about guys like Kyron Williams, right, where you say that they're too small to get the job done, and he ended up getting the job done. But definitely somebody to pay attention to, because as we hit like SEC play and these matchups get bigger and bigger, because college football has been off to a kind of slow start here with these matchups. He's definitely going to be a name because I think he's going to be relied upon in his Ole Miss offense.
Absolutely. And, this guy that started at Ole Miss, I think he transferred to, was he at Miami for a year? Then he transferred back, and it's like, being with Lane is where I need to be. And then Lane and that offense gives running backs the opportunity to perform. And he's been good, quick twitch type of guy as well, kind of jitterbuggish, that just knows how to make plays. Like you said, built like a receiver. And I think he can catch the ball at the backfield, and everything like that. Definitely a running back to think about is those teams that, all right, we got like a bell cow, or we got a bigger body back, but we need that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Justice Hill. That's with the Ravens. And he kind of can fill that type of role as that third down back in the NFL, change of pace type of guy. Now he's been balling this year. Like I said, once you get the SEC play, conference play, that like Lane, you're gonna have to be balanced. You can't put everything on Jackson Dart's arm when you're playing against Bama and Georgia and whoever else. You're gonna have to be balanced and keep the defense off, just off balance and off kilter. But Keith, one more before we transition here. Defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman from North Carolina, Javari Ritzy, 6'4", 290, a guy that has 5 sacks on the season. I think he's leading interior defensive lineman in sacks in college football. Disruptive dude, man. Strong, gets upfield quickly, knows how to use his arm length and his power to reset the line of scrimmage, knows how to reduce angles and soften angles to get into the backfield. And of course, the quickest path to the quarterback is up the middle of the interior offensive line. And, typically we don't ever talk about defenders from North Carolina. It's always been offensive guys, Josh Downs, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, Marion Hampton, Drake May. You know what I mean? It's always been offensive guys, but Javari Ritzy, like he gets after it, man. And it's a guy for the 2025 NFL draft in an interior defensive line group that is strong, that you're probably going to be able to get 3rd, 4th round right now. But if he keeps it up and he's up 7, 8, 10 sacks on the season, he's going to really put that spotlight on himself and kind of take the mic and say, yo, y'all need to be paying attention to me because I'm out here putting in work.
Yeah, the Carolinas are living up to what the phrase is, right? Between Clemson, South Carolina, and North Carolina. I think we called it in recruiting, DP, D-line heaven, right? Because there's so many big boys in the trenches. That's what we call it, D-line heaven. And they're living up to it, right? Because between those 3 schools and some pretty talented defensive linemen between North Carolina, South Carolina, and Clemson. And then, you add NC State, right? They get in the mix from time to time, too. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing. Where are we going, man? We are going to Dame's Dudes. Yes, I get to put DP on the hot seat, get to ask him about some prospects, see whether they're getting in the club or is he kicking them out of the club. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. I promise you that's a headache, especially when you think about going to a live event with family members or friends. And if it's a big group of 3, 4, or 5 or more, you try to find seats that are consecutive, and trying to sift through thousands of tickets can be a full-blown headache. Guys, also with Gametime, they have the seat views from every seat in the venue. So before you buy your tickets, you know what vantage point you and your friends and family will have. They have lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and even job loss protection. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, you know what time it is, guys? It is time for Dame's Dudes, where I get in the hot seat. Keith throws out 5 names that I had to determine off of week 3. Are they in the club or are they out the club? Keith, let's get it going.
DP, we're going to get this thing started, man. We're heading to Big Ten country, right? And I'm going to ask you, Iowa running back Caleb Johnson, is he in the club or out of the club?
Man, this young man is in the club, Keith. 3 straight 100-plus yard games. Also 3 straight games with 2 rushing touchdowns apiece. And how we talk about this running back class, he still has a year of eligibility left, if I remember correctly. He's listed at 6 foot 225, and I don't believe he was supposed to be or expected to be the star running back for them. They had another running back that, if I remember correctly, that was supposed to be the guy and was the guy last year. Caleb Johnson has been the engine of this offense. He's physical, downhill, got the NFL build and size, got enough speed as well. Multiple 11 carries right now of 10 plus yards. He works zone and gap, but I think he's more of a zone fit for an offense, and that fits what we see in the NFL heavily right now. Yeah, Caleb Johnson's in the club, man. The young man, like I said, he could return. I mean, I don't blame him. But this running back class, I might go back too. But like this young man's been balling, man.
Nah, that's what's up. That's what's up. So we're gonna stay in Big Ten country, right? We're gonna go back to back Iowa Hawkeyes, and we're gonna go with cornerback TJ Hall. Is he in the club, out of the club?
No, TJ Hall is out of the club.
Oh man, you split the teammates, DP. They came to the club together. You told one he can't get in and one he could get in.
He's gonna have to sit in the car if they drove together. Yeah, he had a rough week 3, man. Rough week 3. He was targeted 4 times, allowed 3 receptions for 135 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in that game in week 3 against Troy of all teams, Keith, against Troy. This is what that was the stat line. So it wasn't like, if you're playing Jeremiah Smith, okay, I'll give you a little bit of some grace because that's a freshman phenom. Like, it's a little different. But in this situation against Troy, I just didn't like what I saw from him on tape or watching that game. So no, he's not getting in the club. He's going to have to, sit outside in the car if they drove together, or call an Uber, go back to the dorm, and let's try again next week.
All right, let's keep this thing going. Now we in SEC country. Coming up next, we're going to talk about defensive lineman Jared Ivey, transferred from Georgia Tech, started his career over at Georgia Tech, right? Transferred to Ole Miss. Is he in the club, out of the club?
Man, he's in the club, Keith. 6'6", 285, coming off a game where he had multiple pressures and 3 sacks against Wake Forest. Just really kind of helped wreck that game. Him and Princely Umami-Malin. Princely didn't have a sack, but he had like 4 pressures by himself in that game. Those guys were getting after that quarterback, and that slow mesh didn't bother them whatsoever. They got in the backfield, and this is also a dude. He's eligible for the 2025 NFL draft class. And crazy enough, he's coming off of a season in 2023 where he had 15, almost 20 pressures, 4 QB hits, and 8 sacks. And this was a name I didn't really hear much about until watching that game last weekend. And I'm gonna dive into the tape and just kind of see how he got it done, just from an all 22 standpoint. But after that performance, he's in the club, man. He balled out.
Yeah, I think I remember watching him last year, and man, what's the guy? Because he got drafted to the Baltimore Ravens. I am blanking on his name because I believe he's from Canada also. But you're just talking about like those tall guys. Now he's much heavier than the guy we're talking about who got drafted to the Baltimore Ravens, but still, probably see some of those comps, those type of things. And you talk about him, Princely Umami-Malin, and Walter Nolan. It's like for the longest, Ole Miss has had the skill position players, but now they actually have the trenches as far as the defensive line rolling too. And I think that's going to be what's probably going to be the tall tale of what's going to be Ole Miss success overall is the trenches. The DP, let's keep this thing going, man. We are going to Boston College. Yes, I'm all over the map today. We're going with Thomas Castellanos. Yeah, Castellanos.
Quarterback Thomas Castellanos. Nope. He is not getting in this club, man. He's a fun college player, though. He's a fun college player, dual threat guy. He's 5'9", 195. He's come off a game against Missouri where, 250 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And just to me as a passer, like he's not, for one, he doesn't have the size that you typically look for. And his best trait is his ability to create. And he wasn't able to do that against that Missouri defense as much last week. Yeah, he's not getting in the club today, Keith. I'll be honest with you, as a draft prospect, I don't know if he's ever going to get in the club. I'm all for my short kings, but man, like you're going to have to be, I tweeted this out, if you're going to be undersized, you better be Drew Brees or you better be Kyler Murray, baby. You're going to have something that stands out. And I don't know if he has that type of skill set or athleticism or arm talent.
Yeah, all right, well, let's wrap this thing up. I think I know where this is going. We have quarterback Graham Mertz from Florida. I feel like I have a good idea where this is headed. But I'm open to surprises, DP. Come on and surprise me, baby. Quarterback Graham Mertz from Florida. Is he in the club, out of the club?
I can't surprise you, Dick, if he's not in the club. I actually liked Graham's tape from 2023.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It was not bad at all. Like, he looked like a much better quarterback than when he was at Wisconsin. Felt like this was an offense that fit him. This was an environment that fit him. And I was like, okay, this could be one of the sleepers at quarterback in 2024. And he's gotten off to a very rocky start. He got concussed, I think I think it might have been the Miami game, if I remember correctly. I think that was the game he ended up getting concussed in, and I think he missed week 2. And then he played last week against Texas A&M, and 6'2", 216. Like, he's not playing to the level that we saw last year. And I don't know if Billy Napier is going to bench him or not, and start the 5-star recruit DJ Lagway, who, when he played, I think last week, he didn't look good either. I think he threw 2 interceptions as the freshman. I hope that you give Graham Mertz a little bit more time to just find his rhythm, get healthy from the concussion, and see if he can rebound, because he's talented. But just off of how he started this season, no, I can't let him in the club right now, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough situation now, because I don't know how much eligibility he has left either, right? As far
None.
as
Yeah, I think this is a 6 year.
You want to say, right, this is a tough way to go out. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, the film wasn't bad from last year. It was just like the details, and it was his details, but also the entire offense details. Like, man, if they just get the small things together, this could be a well-operated offense. But, just it's not working out thus far. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. DP Dames Dude himself. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like I like to say, man, y'all come talk to us, because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's episode, guys, we are going to get into, matter of fact, Keith, let's talk about some of these freshmen. Let's kind of give people a little picture ahead of the 2027 NFL Draft. I think it is. We got Jeremiah Smith, Kyle Stewart over at South Carolina. This freshman class is unreal. So we're going to talk about these.
DJ
Nico, yeah. It's a lot of young players balling out. We want to kind of give you guys a heads up into that. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.